I'm Ashley McReynolds. I am a program director here at the Arc of Louisiana, and I'm also the proud parent of a young man, Cooper, who has an intellectual disability as well as a co-occurring behavioral health condition. That brings a different perspective to the table for me as a parent in my work that I do here at the Arc of Louisiana, because it is, in fact, personal, and it just brings things to like a whole new level when I advocate for people with disabilities. I'm also advocating on behalf of my son, Cooper. We are an organization that is made up of people with disabilities, family members, service providers, and we work to promote change for individuals with disabilities and their families, and to improve the supports and the services that are available, which will bring better and healthier outcomes for individuals with disabilities. We all work together. We provide education, trainings on so many different topics, and supported decision-making is our newest initiative that began in 2021. So in 2018, I attended a national conference and first heard about supported decision-making by a panel of individuals with disabilities. All I remember is hearing them talk about how the bias that has plagued individuals, and especially those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, has caused them to have all of their rights taken from them. That is what we call here in Louisiana interdiction. The Dustin-Gary Act, it is a new alternative to interdiction here in Louisiana. It is known as supported decision-making. Prior to supported decision-making, there were two options that families had to consider when their child was approaching adulthood. The first is interdiction, and that is the complete or limited removal of the right to care for one's own person and affairs. Basically, if you think of all of your rights as like a bundle of sticks, you've got, what you eat, where you live, all medical decisions, financial decisions. If you were to think of those as like a bundle of sticks, you are literally giving that entire bundle of sticks to somebody else, and somebody else gets to make those decisions on your behalf at all times. For continuing tutorship, the difference between continuing tutorship and interdiction is that process starts in Louisiana when the person is between the ages of 15 and 18. You also have to qualify based on some pretty significant testing that is going to determine that the person possesses less than 2/3 of the average mental ability of a person the same age. So both of these, interdiction and tutorships, are done through the legal system. Testing has to be completed, and a judge has to sign off and say, yes, this person meets all of the qualifications for continuing tutorship and interdiction. Just like interdiction, continuing tutorship means that the parent or the guardian is going to continue to make decisions on that person's behalf after they turn 18. So prior to us passing the Dustin-Gary Act, those were the only options available for individuals and for families. So the new legal and least restrictive option for people with disabilities and their families is supported decision-making. And it will legally allow individuals who utilize a supported decision-making agreement to remain in control over their lives and make decisions that come along the way with the help of a team that they get to choose, that are called their supporters. Individuals with disabilities created this movement that is slowly but surely taking over state by state, that is proving to people that they, in fact, do have the ability to make their own choices with the help of a team of people that they get to put together. But for people with disabilities, it's a way to empower them, and it gives them a way to challenge interdictions or guardianships, whatever it might be based on where they live, to prove to people that they too have the capacity to make reasoned decisions through supported decision making. In the law, we spelled out very clearly who would be eligible to utilize supported decision making. And that is to any adult that has a disability that is defined by the American with Disabilities Act, or the ADA, who has attained 18 years of age, or who is an emancipated minor. Supported decision-making is going to allow individuals with disabilities to be able to remain in control over their lives and over certain decisions that they need to make in their lives. It is also a tool to help teach them how to make reasoned choices or decisions about certain life areas with the support of a team of people that they get to choose. And these people are going to be people that they know and that they trust, and who have a valued interest in these individuals' lives. One of the most important options that I feel supported decision-making brings to individuals with disabilities is when the individual is placed in an interdiction. The only right that these individuals retain is the right to petition the interdiction. Supported decision-making can now be used as a tool for that individual with a disability when they go to petition the courts to have their interdictions overturned. The right to make decisions is fundamental. Our Constitution gives adults, whether or not they have a disability or not, the right to make their own decisions about their lives. And the law presumes that adults, and including those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, that they too have the capacity for decision making. Recognizing that all of us need help sometimes. I had a major aha moment when I first learned about supported decision making. When it was explained to me what supported decision making actually was, we all looked around the room and raised our hands when we all realized that we use supported decision making every single day. We all reach out to our friends, to our family members, to our cousins, to our faith community. It could be an employer, it could be a landlord. We all look to other people for support and guidance when we make certain life decisions. That doesn't mean that we don't have the capacity to make those decisions and that someone else should be able to make those decisions on our behalf. The reality is that we all need help in making certain life decisions. And that includes people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It also takes a lot of time, a lot of learning from mistakes, growing from mistakes, to learn how to make reasoned decisions. And just because a person has a disability, especially those with intellectual or developmental disabilities, what's happened is we just, when that person turns 18, or if the person undergoes a continuing tutorship, that begins at 15, we're just stripping those rights away before they've really been able to experience any type of growth around how to make reasoned decisions. And so we, here at the Arc of Louisiana, and just as me as a parent, what I realized is that supported decision-making could really be the tool that these individuals use to, one, just break down that bias that they don't have the capacity or the ability to make certain life decisions. Are they still going to make some bad decisions along the way? Yep. But you know what? I make those bad decisions all the time. you can still utilize supported decision making, even if that is the case. It's just going back and recognizing that the best practice is to always consider what that individual's opinions are, what their preferences are, their likes, their dislikes. All of that can still be done if that person is under a continuing tutorship or an interdiction. It is super important that the individual chooses people that they know and that they trust, that's who is going to be willing to go on this journey of supported decision making. So you're not going to want it to just be a random person that you happen to have met while, on an outing or at some event. You're going to want it to be a family member. It doesn't have to be an immediate family member. So you can think of like a cousin or, a niece or a nephew. But you're going to, again, want it to be somebody who's got a valued interest in your life and ensuring that they're able to help you make the best possible decision about any certain life area that you're looking to make decisions in. You're going to want it to be somebody who accepts you and completely supports you as an individual with a disability, along with the family member. You're also going to want it to be somebody who has knowledge or some type of experience or expertise in the particular area that you're looking to include in the agreement. So, for example, let's say you're looking at including medical care in your agreement. You're not going to want to just pick a random friend. You're going to want to look to somebody that if you call and ask for advice in a certain area, or ask them to come with you along to that doctor's appointment so they can help you make sure that you're asking the right decisions, you're going to want it to be somebody who is knowledgeable in that area. You're also going to want to look at it, choosing a supporter that can possibly be there long term. As you utilize supported decision making, over time, you're going to anticipate changes in who your supporters are, because as you utilize this opportunity, the level of support that you might need is probably going to lessen as you use it more and more. But the reality is you don't want to just look at people who can be there for a couple of months. You want it to be somebody who is in it for the long haul. If it happens to end a little bit early, great. But you don't want to anticipate making changes to your supporters any more often than necessary. And then lastly, when looking at the right supporter, you want it to be an individual who is super open, very flexible, who is committed to ensuring that the person with the disability is always at the center of the supported decision-making agreement, and is committed to ensuring that that person has everything that they need at all times to make the best decisions possible. Step one is identifying the areas in which the individual has decided that they need some assistance in making some decisions with. So that could be, looking at medical decisions, financial decisions, where they live, where they work, what they do in their free time. If they drive, if they, can have a boyfriend or girlfriend, these are all areas that to some of us might seem sort of trivial, but to people with disabilities, is super important. And so it's an important step of the process that they get to choose. These are the areas in which I would like to get some, support in making decisions in. Step two is identifying the supporters that they would like to have them be a part of their supported decision-making team. And oftentimes it's just sitting around and talking to them about who the important people are in their lives. Not trying to look also outside of family can be a little bit difficult, but, are they involved, in some type of, community group? Do they, attend church? Do they have somebody that's super, close to them if they attend a day program, or if they're employed? Is it somebody, on that level that could be a part of that, decision-making team? The next step is meeting with the potential supporters. And this is where we bring all of those people that the person identified around the table, talk about supported decision-making. We answer any questions that the supporters might have, and then ultimately turn around and ask them, is this something that you're willing to help me with? Yes or no? And if they are, then great, then we move on. If not, then sometimes we have to go back to the drawing board and find, a different pool of supporters to choose from. The next step is walking through all of the different steps of the agreement. There are very specific things that are spelled out in the law that are required to be in the agreement. And I walk the individual and all of the supporters through all of that to make sure that everybody completely understands what's in the agreement, the type of support that the individual is wanting to receive, also the type of support the individual does not want to receive. Make sure everybody's clear. And then the last step is executing the supported decision-making agreement. I'm going to share with you a story about a young man named Steve who has an intellectual developmental disability that was placed under a full interdiction, which means he had all of his rights taken away. And the courts appointed his aunt as the person responsible for making all of his life decisions. He was very upset, very angry that a judge had appointed somebody else to make his life decisions. And so he decided to challenge his interdiction, which is the only right that he retained when he was placed under the interdiction. And he hired an attorney. And I got brought into the picture to help him utilize supported decision-making and come up with a supported decision-making agreement. So we walked through all of those steps. He was surrounded by a great team of people, and we figured out all of the different life areas that he wanted, and we challenged it. And the courts came in and decided that, you know what, maybe this full interdiction was a little bit of overreach. We're going to reduce it a little bit and place him under a limited interdiction. So we'll give him some of his rights back, but we will also keep his aunt in charge of his more critical areas like financial and his health care. So while he was happy, but yet sad that there was still somebody else in charge of a few of his life areas, I reminded him that supported decision-making could be a tool that he could use and really show and go back to the judge and say, look, I've been using this now for X amount of time. This is the growth that I've had. These are some of the decisions that I've made, and I'm really doing okay. I've got a great team of supporters. They help me making sure I have all of the information. I have all of, any questions that I have, they've been answered before I make any decision, and I'm really doing okay. And so I just reminded him that it's not over, that he can use supported decision-making when he goes back and petitions again to have the limited interdiction overturned, that supported decision-making could be the tool that helps lift that limited interdiction off, later on when he decides to go back and petition the courts. To me, supported decision-making is so much more than just one tool. It really provides so many opportunities for individuals. I feel it also provides so many learning opportunities for parents like me. It brings in a whole scope of in the opportunity to talk about things that oftentimes for people with disabilities just gets overlooked. Healthy relationships is another area that supported decision-making can really benefit people with disabilities, but it's really causing us as adults and as parents to pause and to say, you know what, just because they have a disability, it might be intellectual, it might be developmental, but just because they have that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be afforded the same opportunities that people without disabilities have been afforded for all of their lives. And to really force professionals, both in the educational system and the healthcare system, to sort of move the pendulum back a little bit and say they are just as capable as people without disabilities. And just because they need support from people, just like I need support from people making decisions, doesn't mean that because I need that type of support, that I shouldn't have the right to be able to continue to make decisions about their own lives. So for me, while it's just another tool, it's really so much bigger than that as we work to try to end the bias and the stigma around people with disabilities and their capacity to make reasoned decisions.